Hello and welcome to today's episode. Unless I change the title, today's episode will be called Fog of War. Because that's what we are in. We are in fog of war. First topic is Israel versus Hamas. Hamas helps to promote greater Israel theory over two-state solution. Personally, I prefer two-state solution over greater Israel theory. How does Hamas help promote greater Israel theory? Well, if these people are given independence, if they are recognized as a state, they will attack us much worse. It will be a full-blown war. They'll be able to get access to everything they want. They'll get their own electricity, they'll get their own water supply, they'll get their own airport, they'll get their own seaport or naval port. Right? So Israelis do not want to give that to the Palestinians because then the threat to Israel will be much, much greater. And I think they want to stop that. They have propped up Hamas to divide and conquer Palestinians. They've propped up Hamas to paint these people as radicals, which, to be fair, they are radicals. It's not like Palestinians are like good guys and we just want peace, we just want our homeland back. They want to murder Jews. That's true, but that's what is happening here. I'm not a fan of either side. And this weird thing I found was Israel is giving collective punishment to Palestinians or to Gaza just for the actions of Hamas. True, if they don't support Hamas, they're dead. That's true about anyone in Gaza. Even if they're like, we don't want war, we just want peace. If they don't support Hamas, they're dead. That's reality. Think of Gazans as French or Russian peasants. Think of Israel as French and Russian nobility. And think of Hamas as Jacobins or Bolsheviks. To get rid of something bad, that is Israel, Gazans have replaced them with something worse, like radicals, like Jacobins or Bolsheviks during the French and Russian Revolution. That's what has happened with Hamas. Other modern examples are the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Right? To get rid of Shah, who was bad, they supported and propped up something worse. Iranians supported and propped up something worse. The Ayatollahs, the theocratic regime which is there right now. And Gaza has done the same thing. Like I said, think of Gaza or Gazans as French and Russian peasants. Think of Israel as French or Russian nobility. And think of Hamas as Jacobins or the Bolsheviks. We are in a fog of war. Don't believe everything you will see on social media. For example, this recent attack on a hospital in Gaza. The hospital is called Al-Ahli Arab Hospital. Initially, everyone believed it was from IDF, Israeli Defense Force. But it turns out to be a misfired rocket from Hamas. And how did we get that revelation? Well, Al Jazeera accidentally showed a rocket being fired from, I think it was Hamas or some other, I think Palestinian organization. I'll correct this one. I don't think it was from Hamas. It was from some other Palestinian organization, terrorist or militia organization. And they fired that rocket and it was misfired and it hit something. at around 8:59 p.m. or something like that, a.m. or p.m., something like that. And at the same time that hospital was hit. Later on, it turned out that hospital wasn't even hit. It was a parking lot of the hospital, and there weren't 500 people dead. There's something like 50 dead. Of course, that's still a tragedy. But we went from Israel hitting a hospital to a misfired rocket hitting a parking lot of the hospital. See, that's misinformation. From Israel hitting a hospital to a misfired rocket landing in a parking lot of a hospital. That's called fog of war. There's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of misinformation on every platform, on every type of media. So take everything with a grain of salt. What we are about to see is Israeli ground invasion of Gaza. There's no way Israel can wipe out Hamas without significant civilian casualties in Gaza. Many Arab states are warning Israel to not do this. Iran and Hezbollah are threatening retaliation. The Hamas attack on Israel caused something like 1,000 casualties, 1,300 casualties. Retaliation from Israel has already caused 4,000 Gazan casualties or Hamas casualties. I don't think they're all Hamas, but I don't know. Like I said, if they don't support Hamas, they're dead. If Gaza does not support Hamas, they're dead. They'll be called all sorts of names like traitors and Jewish agents or whatnot, and they'll be killed. So anyway, 1,000 Israelis dead and 4,000 Gazans dead. Like I said, we'll see a lot of news of horrible tragedies coming out of Gaza that may or may not be true. While Western countries are standing firmly behind Israel, Russia and China seem to be the only adults in the room so far. They are cooperating to de-escalate tensions in West Asia to avoid a major regional war. I don't think this will escalate into a major war between countries. I don't know what Hezbollah will do, although they have threatened to open a second front in northern Israel. That is likely. I don't know what Turkey will do. Chance of Turkey in getting involved are really low. I don't think Iran will get involved unless it is forced to by United States. Because I don't know why. What's wrong with Biden administration? Maybe because they've printed too much money and their economy is going down. Maybe they know they are in decline and they want to preserve their hegemony at all cost. But it seems to me that Biden administration is bent on setting fire to the heartland, Europe, Asia, and Africa. That's what it seems like to me. Maybe because United States is in decline and they don't want a competitor to rise up and replace them completely. Maybe they are thinking if the whole world is at war, then that means all economies will go down and US will be able to somehow preserve their hegemony. Maybe they don't want blowback from their own people over all the inflated currency or inflation caused by the lockdowns and all the money printing that happened. That's what United States appears to be doing. I think Saudis are trying to use this situation to get better terms in the peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel. There are rumors that the peace deal is still happening, but it is happening under the radar, behind the scenes. I think this peace deal is actually proceeding. I think that's what is happening. But publicly they are like, we'll pause this deal, we'll cancel this deal. But behind the scenes, I think that deal is still going on. I think they're just trying to extract better terms from United States and Israel. Here's the truth about Palestinians. Palestinians or Gazans particularly, they're way too radicalized. And that's why other Arab countries don't want to take them in as refugees. Egyptians don't want them, Jordanians don't want them. In fact, I think Jordan took in many Palestinians as refugees, something like 20,000 or so, and they tried or succeeded in assassinating King of Jordan. I don't know if they succeeded in that, but they definitely tried. Maybe they succeeded. And at that event, it's known as Black September. But whether they tried or actually succeeded, that's the reason why other Arab nations don't want to take in Palestinian refugees. And Jordan was already part of Palestine. There are many countries that are propped up and artificially created by Europeans in the Middle East or the Arab world. If you look at the map of the Ottoman Empire and see all the provinces, or I don't know what they're called. If you see that, many of the countries didn't even exist properly. They were artificially created after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. Even there was no such thing as Israel, of course, there was no such thing. But there was also no such thing as Palestine in the Ottoman Empire. So if we are going to look at the map of 1940s, because that's when Israelis came in and occupied Palestine, we also have to look at the map of 1910s and late 19th century, of the map of Ottoman Empire at its peak. There was no such thing as Palestine, and there was no such thing as Israel. Israelis or Jewish people were there for like 2000 years ago. 2000 years ago, United States did not exist as a country, or as a political institution, or as a civilization. It just didn't exist, the modern version. Same goes for Canada, Australia. See, that's why this whole thing is a mess. That's why this whole Israel-Palestine, who has the right, who has the moral authority to occupy that space? Israelis or Palestinians? That's why it gets confusing, because you can cherry pick and create your own narrative. There has to be a political and diplomatic solution to all this, and followed by some kind of de-radicalization program for Palestinians and also for Israelis. But Israel is a Jewish ethno-state. It has to be turned into a liberal democracy. That's what it has to turn into. For it will be easier to de-radicalize Israel. It will be much harder to de-radicalize Palestine. See, and like I said, you can cherry pick and make your own argument, pro-Israel, pro-Palestine. That's why I support rather two-state solution based on 1967 borders. Many people support that. And I support that as well. Based on 1967 borders. That's for this topic. Moving on to the next topic. This might be my favorite one. Enemies of India keep dying at the hands of mysterious men. Shahid Latif, a terrorist mastermind living in Sialkot, Pakistan, died recently at the hands of mysterious men. He was killed in a mosque by gunmen who then fled on a bike. Police have opened an investigation into the incident. Shahid Latif was on India's list of wanted terrorists under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act (UAPA). He was a part of terrorist group Jaish-e-Mohammed. He was considered to be mastermind behind Pathankot terror attack in 2016. He was detained in Jammu in November 1994 for terrorism and narcotics related charges. And some people say he was also involved in 2008 Mumbai terrorist attacks, and he later escaped, or he was let go in exchange for some solidarity or something like that. But I haven't found anything related to that. Maybe that is true, maybe that is not. But anyway, he was detained. That is for sure. He was detained in Jammu in November 1994 for terrorism and narcotics related charges. Now he's dead in Sialkot, Pakistan. This morning, news came through that Pakistan founder of Lashkar-e-Jabbar, close aide of India's most wanted, Maulana Masood Azhar, Daud Malik, has been killed by unknown men in northern Waziristan. Like I said, a lot of enemies of India have died recently at the hands of unknown gunmen. Most prominent or most famous of those being Hardeep Singh Nijjar, chief of the Khalistan Tiger Force. So, God bless this mysterious man. Israel, the new Mossad, the question is being asked recently. India was seen as a soft state that wouldn't act and would just swallow the tragedy and humiliation from smaller nearby states. Now India is being seen as a hard state, taking out enemies of the state hiding abroad. And that's what should have happened. India is the major country. It should try to establish a sphere of influence. Maybe to appease for vote bank politics reasons, the previous government was not taking action on these terrorists. RAW or RNAW is technically it's called. Had intelligence about locations of these people and they wouldn't act. And right now they are acting. And considering Mossad's recent blunder with the Hamas attack on Israel, maybe RNAW can fill in the space of Mossad. Maybe right now. At least until, God forbid, RNAW makes a blunder as well. Like I said, God bless these mysterious men who are killing off enemies of India. Next topic. Canada's foreign policy clown show continues. Canada took back 41 Canadian diplomats from India, out of India. They took back those diplomats. Here's what Canadian Foreign Minister Melanie Joly says. As of now, I can confirm that India has formally conveyed its plan to unilaterally remove diplomatic immunities for all but 21 Canadian diplomats and dependents in Delhi by October 20. This means 41 Canadian diplomats and their 42 dependents were in danger of having immunity stripped on an arbitrary date, and this would put their personal safety at risk. Canadians watching may be wondering what this means for our operations in India. There's no question that India's decision will impact the level of services to consulates in both countries. Unfortunately, we have to put a pause on all in-person services in our consulates in Chandigarh, in Mumbai and in Bangalore. After this, MEA, Ministry of External Affairs, the Foreign Service of India, MEA issued statement. We have seen the statement by the Government of Canada on October 19 regarding Canadian diplomatic presence in India. The state of our bilateral relations, the much higher number of Canadian diplomats in India, and their continued interference in our internal affairs warrants a parity in mutual diplomatic presence in New Delhi and Ottawa. We have engaged with the Canadian side on this over last month in order to work out the details and modalities of its implementations. Our actions in implementing this parity are fully consistent with the Article 11.1 of Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, which states the following. In absence of specific agreement as to the size of the mission, the receiving state may require that the size of a mission may be kept within limits considered by it to be reasonable and normal, having regard to circumstances and conditions in the receiving state and to the needs of the particular mission. We reject. This is the continued statement of Ministry of External Affairs. We reject any attempt to portray the implementation of parity as a violation of international norms. So Canada tried to victim blame and they were crybullying. India didn't take it. Canada-Israel relations. PM Trudeau said Canada is taking the time needed to investigate carefully beyond the preliminary evidence before reaching any final conclusion. Contrast this. This is about the hospital story. Contrast this to what Biden said to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. Biden told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So when it comes to taking evidence about India's involvement, Canada just took evidence from the Five Eyes, particularly the United States, and they just said, yeah, we believe this evidence, this is credible allegations or whatnot. But when it comes to taking American intelligence on Israel not bombing the hospital, Canada said it is taking the time needed to investigate carefully beyond the preliminary evidence before reaching any final conclusions. Maybe they decided to wise up and decided, you know what, maybe United States intelligence evidence is not as credible as as they portray it to be. Maybe we need to be careful from now on. Or maybe they are just playing politics. They just want to appease the progressive. Maybe the Prime Minister Trudeau wants to appease its progressive voter base. And maybe Israelis did it or whatnot. That's what they're trying to portray. We don't know if Hamas did this. Maybe it Israeli did this. Maybe Hamas did this. We don't know. That's what they're saying. This will affect Canada's relations with Israel. Last one. Canada-China relations. China almost shot down a Canadian surveillance plane off the coast of China. The surveillance plane was on a UN mission for surveillance of enforcement of sanctions against North Korea. Chinese fighter jets carried out dangerous and reckless interception of a Canadian military plane over international waters, Defense Minister Bill Blair said. China on Tuesday blamed Canadian military plane for seriously violating China's sovereignty and national security by entering its airspace. Of course, at first I thought, why would China interfere with UN mission? But then I remembered Saiher's story about how US planted bombs on the Nord Stream pipeline under the guise of Baltop's 22 NATO exercise. This probably isn't the first time there was a UN mission for surveillance of enforcement of sanctions against North Korea. The fact that Chinese had to send fighter jets against a surveillance plane means there's a chance that the surveillance plane was doing something other than surveillance of enforcement of sanctions against North Korea. Or at least Chinese became suspicious that the surveillance plane was doing something other than surveillance of enforcement of sanctions against North Korea. Canada-China relations are already terrible. There was a viral video out of G20 summit of 2022 in Indonesia, where President Xi Jinping schooled PM Trudeau about leaking private discussions on camera. This was probably just Chinese sending warning to Canadian surveillance plane. Imagine if China actually shot down the surveillance plane. Canadians were already accusing China of interfering in their elections. Imagine if this had escalated further. I don't know what's going on with foreign policy of Canada. Just for domestic politics, they are just exploiting at causing all sorts of trouble with the foreign policy. That's terrible idea. That's just terrible. Especially in a globalized economy, you want to improve diplomatic relations as much as possible, not make them worse. un- unless you want to destroy your economy as well. Next story, Poland election results. Poland's Liberal Party, considered to be pro EU, wins elections. Just like all elections, Liberal leader Donald Tusk called the parliamentary elections as the last chance to save democracy. Like all, liberal leaders do whenever there is an election. Donald Tusk was Poland's former prime minister and also European Council president. He was the one in charge when all the migrants started coming in. All the illegal immigration, all the refugees started coming in to Europe. I think that's who he was. Poland's current ruling party, Law and Justice Party, won with 35.4% votes. Coming in at second place was the centrist Civic Coalition at 30.7%. Other parties were center right third way at 14.4%, left with 88.6%, and the far right Confederation with 7.2%. Ruling party would fall short of majority even if it teams up with far right Confederation. Civic Coalition, led by Donald Tusk, the third way, and the left have pledged to form a coalition government to remove current ruling party from power. So that's 30.7 plus 14.4 plus 8.6. That's more than 50%. I'm not fully aware of policies of the winning Civic Coalition. Mr. Tusk has promised to liberalize abortion laws. He has also promised to rebuild relations with Brussels and unblock frozen EU funds. I don't know what his policy will be with Russia, but considering his pro-European Union, we can all expect bad relations with Russia and a lot of refugees in Poland, just like in Germany and all these England and all these other places. So Poland has fallen, most likely. He was criticizing the Law and Justice Party about immigration, but he criticized them from anti-immigration perspective. There was a scandal about how Poland was giving out visas outside their embassies in various countries. They were just giving out visas left and right, and they had privatized visa services. Something there was a scandal. They were taking anti-immigration stance in public, but effectively they were allowing in immigrants privately. That was the scandal. So anyway, but like I said, considering he is pro-European Union, we can expect bad relations with Russia and a lot of refugees in Poland. Poland has fallen. Microsoft-Activision deal complete. Microsoft has finally acquired Activision Blizzard after 20 months. Microsoft closed the acquisition after restructuring the deal to please UK's regulatory body, CMA, and defeating US regulatory body, FTC. Xbox chief Phil Spencer posted on X, "Today is a good day to play." This was few days ago. "Today is a good day to play. We officially welcome Activision Blizzard King to Team Xbox. Together we'll create stories and experiences that bring players together in a culture empowering everyone to do their best work and celebrate diverse perspectives." Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick will stay until the end of 2023 to help with the transition. There were a lot of allegations against this CEO about harassment and terrible workplace culture. He'll go by the end of 2023. That's good news for everybody. The deal requires Microsoft to give Activision Blizzard's cloud gaming rights to Ubisoft for the next 15 years. That means Microsoft has to pay Ubisoft to put Activision Blizzard games on xCloud. This deal is more about Microsoft trying to become a major player in mobile gaming market than growing in PC and console market. Those are niceties, but they are not the main reason. Main reason is the mobile gaming market. Apple, for example, is in top 5 by revenue in gaming industry. Even though they don't make any games, they just take 30% cut in mobile games. This deal will position Microsoft as a major player in mobile gaming, as it missed out on mobile completely. That's probably why it restructured the deal to satisfy UK's CMA. And the Activision Blizzard king, the king part, is the owner of Candy Crush. Microsoft already owns Minecraft, and because of this Activision Blizzard king, they'll own Call of Duty Mobile and they'll own Candy Crush. And they'll also own World of Warcraft and all these other games. There's a lot of IP, there's a lot of potential for exploration, there's a lot of potential for gaming, for mobile gaming, and that's why they have acquired it. Few months ago, there were plans leaked that they want to create their own mobile gaming store, and they'll do it after the European Union's Digital Markets Act, which will force Apple to open up the iPhone to third-party app stores, and iPhone users will be able to install applications and games from anywhere, not just the Apple App Store. Android users can already do that with a little bit of workaround, and iPhone users will be able to do it as well, at least in Europe. And I think that's where they'll come in with their own gaming store. Or maybe they'll just put an Xbox account, like Google Play Games account or Apple Arcade or Facebook account, to store game data of mobile games and also to make purchases from that account, from the Xbox account. I think that's what they will do probably. Last topic. Google Assistant is now getting better. I forgot to talk about this from the Google Pixel event. Google announced Google Assistant with Bard. Google Assistant was getting stupider and stupider recently, according to tech community. But now it will be much smarter. I was waiting for a voice assistant with AI chatbot as soon as ChatGPT became popular. I expected Microsoft to relaunch Cortana. Cortana had potential to become the most powerful voice assistant if Microsoft had integrated Bing Chat into Cortana. Cortana with Bing Chat and Matter hardware support could have been Microsoft's way to re-enter the voice assistant market, but that didn't happen. I wasn't expecting Siri to become smarter all of a sudden, because Apple is very, very careful about emerging technologies. They don't want to get labeled with spreading misinformation and anything like that. They don't want any controversy that has plagued ChatGPT and Bing AI and Google Bard. They don't want that. Apple will be very, very careful, and they'll do it 5-6 years from now. I doubt they'll suddenly make Siri super smart in a year or two. They'll be very, very careful. I also expected Alexa to become super smart, as Alexa does rely on Bing for some things, and maybe they would have integrated Bing Chat into Alexa. But that didn't happen either. Amazon is working on their own large language model for Alexa. So maybe Alexa will get smarter in the future. The voice assistant that got large language model integration was the voice assistant that needed it the least. That voice assistant is Google Assistant. Google is also reintroducing some Nest features that it cancelled, like speaker groups, because of Sonos lawsuit. But recently, the ruling came in favor of Google over Sonos, and Google is reintroducing these features. Google Assistant is becoming even better now. Just like regular Bard, Google Assistant with Bard will integrate Google apps and services like Gmail and Docs. Google Assistant will also help users create a caption if the assistant is triggered while posting a photo on social media. That's really cool. It will also help users summarize articles on the web if the assistant is triggered while a website is opened. I was not on board with voice assistant hype train as they were not true assistant, but I think this will change that. I think with large language models, these voice assistants will get really smart and get really close to a voice assistant from sci-fi. So maybe I'll get a Google Assistant smart speaker after all. Not right now, but maybe in few months or a year. That's how I'll start my smart home journey. I'm not big fan of smart homes. I'll maybe get a speaker. I already have a smart TV. I'll get maybe a speaker. That's about it. And maybe some smart gadgets here and there. I'm not just putting my entire home on smart speakers. I'm not going to do that. So anyways, this was a short episode. Wow. Last week I said this episode will be short, but that episode was not short. It was quite good. I didn't say that this time, but this episode is short. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys very soon. If you like this, just hit like button, share it with people you know. If you have any feedback, leave feedback in the comment section. If the podcast app that you are listening to this in is supporting comment section or has a comment section. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys very soon.